Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the week ending the 25th of November 2023. Gaza bombs ceased and Hamas frees some abductees, as does Israel with some detainees, but there's still no permanent peace. Government unease at migration figures released. The tax ban freeze sees the squeeze not eased for many families, despite Hunt's pleas that he's trying to please. Three wise men provide expertise at the inquiry into the COVID disease. People of Stockton-on-Tees are not best pleased. For India, the week started as a bit of a mare. The World Cup final was a one-sided affair. The Aussies left the cricket-mad nation in despair, beating the host with 7 overs to spare. If the COVID inquiry was searching for scapegoats with its trawl through WhatsApps and witness anecdotes, up to now it had probably achieved its aims in an orgy of finger-pointing, a huge blame game. But this week we got down to the nitty-gritty with the three wise men, Valence, Van Dam and Whitty. During 2020 they were every day in the news as the government's medical and science gurus. All three of them, who are now Knights of the Realm, gave the inquiry their views from the COVID helm. Valence told us that Boris was often bamboozled. So it was dumbness, not scorn, behind his refusal to understand the detail and to excuse all his rule breaking when faced with the Commons' accusals. The next day it was Chris Whitty from whom we heard. Remember when we hung on to his every word, with his bedside voice asking for "next slide please," guiding us through the maze of the killer disease? England's medical chief was calm and confessional. The professor was typically, professional. No personal broadsides against politicians, no scathing comments concerning bad decisions. Although when talking of Boris, the veil became thin, saying his decision-making was unique to him. He also admitted, given what we now know, at the start Britain probably reacted too slow. While we were still in large groups and acting carefree, much of Europe had locked down and thrown away the key. The next day it was the turn of Professor Van Tam, who became known as something of a metaphor man, using football analogies to explain tricky stuff. What we didn't know then was that he was having things rough. Behind the scenes, while he told us what everything meant, the sheer volume of work had him pretty well spent. And with his avuncular air, he managed not to convey that his family were receiving death threats every day. Yes, while most of us were saying wham bam thanks Van Tam for holding our metaphorical collective hand, a bunch of saddos had got it in their heads that they wanted Jonathan and his family dead. On Wednesday in the House of Commons hurly-burly, Hunt tried to make out Santa Claus had come early. His autumn statement seemed generous enough, although on claiming disability he was talking tough. But his tax giveaways were in fact a net tax grab, with people getting snagged in the net of fiscal drag. Frozen tax bans causing the fiscal drag snag, so Hunt actually had little of which he should brag. Meanwhile, Home Secretary cleverly didn't act cleverly, and opponents descended on him quite heavily. They were angry but pleased and quick to seize on what he apparently said about Stockton-on-Tees. In the Commons he was heard to say it was a shithole. He then denied and then apologised as he dug his big hole. The fog of war in Gaza is impenetrable. as Israel and Hamas defend the indefensible. Al-Shifa Hospital operated with fighting all around because a Hamas nerve centre is underground. Well, that's Israel's claim, which is not yet verified, which, according to them, makes their fighting justified, but something that, of course, Hamas have denied, so the world is mystified and not satisfied. Then on Friday morning, after days of delays, we saw the dissipation of the Gaza haze, the cloud that has hung since Israel dropped its first bomb and which have kept falling since the 10/7 pogrom, suddenly ceased for hopefully 4 days at least, a hint of a piece of good news, a hint of peace. Now aid could go in as it was about to run out, and a hostage prisoner swap could come about. On Sunday, the hearts of 8 parents dropped when communication from their sons abruptly stopped. 2 days later, the news that every parent dreads. An overturned car had been found. 4 teenagers were dead. 4 really great lads going camping in Wales ended in a disaster of which there are few details. On Thursday, revised migration figures were released that had people in the UK on all sides displeased. The net flow of people into Britain who have come is approaching the population of Brum. This is way above anything we've had before, after Brexit was supposed to have locked the door. And of this total, which is for 2022, the small boats contributed very few. A majority have come by legitimate means, visas given for work, study and other schemes. On the same day in Ireland, more news that was troubling. 3 young children stabbed near a school in Dublin. This shocking event seemed to give the green light for right-wing thugs to riot and set streets alight. Next day, the Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar, expressed, in words not minced, that he was extremely unimpressed. The problems of immigration in Ireland now debated, and in other European news not unrelated, the Netherlands' new PM could be Wilders, and the EU is concerned and probably bewildered. His PVV party has risen right to the top. Donald, Boris and now Geert. When will it stop? The rise of the populist with big blonde mop.